Cougar was exhausted every resource of the juvenile justice system. I still have some of his dirty tests from PCP when my probation officer buddy was monitoring him. I had access to some of the records, so I know a lot about Cougar. After the murder of the Cardinal, Cougar came back to the United States, but he went up to Walmart because his girlfriend had moved up there. So Jack runs his girlfriend, finds out she's in Walmart, goes to her parents' house, said they're at church right now. So this is in June this is a month after the Cardinal was murdered. So Jack drives up to Walmart. He goes to the church. He goes to the pew behind Cougar, and he whispers in his ears, "Jesus, I'm here for you, and we're going to talk." He arrests him. In the 5-hour drive back to San Diego, Jack prays for Cougar, prays in tongues, does whatever he can to get him to tell him. Jack writes this report, and it's one of the most mind-blowing reports because you have on paper the DEA 12? FBI's 202, right?
Yeah.
DEA 6. So in a DEA 6, pages long, Jack and Cougar's conversation from Lompoc to San Diego. He's given up radio codes, frequencies, their code names, the codes that they use, the different crews, who's assigned to what, how much they get paid on Catholic holidays, $500 a week. They get trained by the military, the federal police, state police, local police. They have all these weapons. So that was an earth-shattering report, for DEA at the time. And just kind of blew thing. There's a war going on, and these guys are running their enforcement squads or their cartels like police organizations, dispatchers, radios, frequencies, and just very sophisticated communications. And so he gets Cougar to cooperate, but we end up extraditing Cougar, the guy we get up in Washington, Idaho. Extradited, they get out, they come back. We find him again. I find Cougar in Augusta, find Night Owl up in Washington, and they agree to cooperate. Put him in prison, put him in jail, but they agree to cooperate. Cougar gets out of jail. Wait, no, Cougar never went to jail. He stays in Augusta. His wife's in the Army there. Cougar stays in Augusta. He goes to grand jury several times, and I'm his controlling agent. And one day he calls me, about a year after he starts cooperating. He goes, "Steve, I want to become a cop. I'm going to this church and all the guys want me to be a cop." And I go, "Cougar, you can't do that. If they do a background on you that see that you graduated from kiddie prison at CYA, they see that you did 2 years for killing a cardinal in Mexico. They see that they're going to see that you were extradited for that. You can't do that. Come on, set your sights reasonably. You're a good kid. I know you're trying to do well. You've made some changes in your life, some great changes, and you definitely have great experiences, but it ain't going to happen." I get a call a year later from Cougar because I told him I wouldn't be a reference for him. A year later, I get a call. No, it's a Christmas card. Jesus thanking the entire team, Cougar, thanking the entire team for helping him, to guiding him, and that right now he's working for the Georgia Department of Corrections. He's a range master. He's
No bullshit.
Yes, he's an EMT instructor. And I'm reading the card because he sends it to Lee. He sends it to the most nurturing agent on the team. He sends a Christmas card to Lee. Lee gives it to me, and I go, "Oh, fuck." And I give it to Brick. And I say, "Brick, we got to do something." Brick Johnson, he just retired from FBI. I go, "Brick," and he was a solid dude, my FBI partner. And Britt goes, "Well, let me call legal." They have their legal aid or their legal department at the FBI. They have their own attorneys. So he calls them and said, "Do we need to do anything?" And they say, "No." So we don't do anything. We let Cougar stay in Augusta and work in the prison. A year later, I get a call about watering my lawn with my curls. Now, when I was working, then I would have to double task. But anyways, I remember getting the call in my backyard and watering the lawn, and it's Cougar. He goes, "Hey, Steve, how you doing?" I go, "Fine. How you doing? How's your job?" He goes, "Well, I quit." I go, "Why would you do that?" He goes, "Well, I got a job with the Federal Bureau of Prisons here in California." And he goes, "And guess what?" He goes, yesterday when I was serving the guys in lockup their food, I ran into Night Owl and the other guy that that pled guilty for the murder of Cardinal. And I served them, and they looked at me, and they didn't say anything. But Steve, they know that I'm a guard there, and they go, "How are you a guard for the Federal Bureau of Prisons?" They go, "Well, they hire you, and then you have, they do a background on you." So I know well about the 1 year probation period because I got fired because of my shitty traffic record. So in Cougar, again, he's been extradited. He's exhausted every resource in the juvenile justice system. There were articles written about him. The Cardinal and the gang was featured in a book, and he still gets hired by Federal Bureau of Prisons. So I remember going up there with my partner, Dave Herod. Dave and I went up there with the U.S. Attorney, Lord Duffy. We go up there. We have to get him ready for grand jury. But we're also going to talk to him about quitting his job because we've already dropped the dime on him. How do you hire somebody? Right. So anyways, we go up there. Cougar goes, yeah, I got a talking to. I either have to resign or they're going to fire me. But if I let them fire me, I still get benefits for another month, something like that. And I go, Jesus, resign. Save face. I know you're trying to do well, but your past just precludes you from working for law enforcement. So he goes, okay. He ends up getting fired, making a fire because he wants him. So anyways, case goes on. Cougar gets fired. He gets a job with the Air Force, Vandenberg Air Force Base, with a top security clearance as a security guard.
What in the hell is going on?
Exactly. And I've sent in messages to Sebastian Rotella from the LA Times, saying, hey, this is a guy you did an article about 1993. They called the Cardinal and the gang, and it features Cougar, and he has continued to get jobs in law enforcement with top security clearances, carrying a gun after his career. I go, do you want to write part 2 of this? He goes, no, but thanks for keeping me in the loop. So serious. So I get a call from Brandenburg Air Force Base saying, hey, we got a guy here. There was a domestic dispute, him and his wife. He's a correctional officer. And he threatened her, and he works for us. We did a check on him, and we see that he was extradited, and there was a warrant out of Mexico for him for killing the Cardinal, right? And I go, yeah? Why'd you hire him? I go, this shit keeps happening. He goes, we didn't know. I go, well, guys don't do backgrounds. You got to do backgrounds, So they end up finding a way to get rid of him. And then, about 5 years ago, I get a call from his wife. Jesus kidnapped our kids, my kids, all 5 of them. So it's like we put out an Amber Alert, and he's an armed security guard up in Reno or wherever he's living at the time, carrying a firearm. And so I'm looking for him. We finally find him, and I send my agency. At the time, we had Jerry Brown and Kamala Harris working for us. So they totally turned our organization into one that targeted the worst of the worst to one that targeted bullshit crimes.
Yeah.
And our egos went from top notch to suicidal once they took over. Because we were no longer doing the things that we hired on to do, protect society and make a difference.
And that was the Department of Justice.
That was California Department of Justice.
Yeah.
So when Jerry Brown and then Kamala came along, she didn't do anything to help. She just made things worse. She always tried to puff herself up, making promises to everybody. But our agency was just a skeleton of itself after Jerry Brown took office. And it continued that way under her realm as Attorney General. And so nobody in our department likes her. Nobody in California law enforcement likes her. She's terrible. And she's our vice president. But